Hello and welcome to Wisdom Bites. Hope you're well. Thank you once again for joining us. Very much appreciated. And in this packed program, I'm going to show you a few unique trend lines which have been forming over the last 10 years, which no one has been looking at. We'll also have a look at the short and the long-term picture with Bitcoin by using the various other indicators to let us know exactly what's happening with Bitcoin now and what is likely to happen with Bitcoin in the future. And as you know, with the altcoins, they will follow where Bitcoin leads. At the end of the video, I'm going to cover a really important wisdom bite, which will really transform the way you think. It's a simple quotation, but its implications are absolutely huge. And it is the difference between those who will be successful and those who won't. But before we do that, the usual disclaimer, please remember all my videos are for educational purposes only, and nothing in this video or any of my videos should be taken as financial advice. Please do your wider research before making any investment decisions. So with that out of the way, get your Snickers bars, cups of teas, and let's get cracking. I'm going to start off with this BLX chart, which covers Bitcoin from its inception here in 2010, right the way through to our target here of 300,000, which we've had for the last 2 years. I've drawn this blue line for many months now, and I've said very clearly that this line is going to prove a major resistant point over here, and nothing about that has changed whatsoever. But now what we can do is we can add two other lines that will give us a very important channel for which we can guide our decisions in the future. The first one is this very obvious line here, but the line that nobody has been seeing, and I've not seen it with anybody on the YouTube channels yet, and that line is this one here. If we take the line from this inception point around the 2010-11 mark, and if you take it all the way through to the current price level, going through the COVID-19 situation, the correction that we had over here, through to this support, and this is where it brings us to here now. And I'm going to have a closer look at this point here. But before I do that, we can see quite clearly why this is going to be very significant, because we've got now one touch point here, the COVID correction over here 2, this support level 3, and what we need to know is what's going to happen over here. Let's have a look at this. So currently we've been hovering around this range here. At the top it's been around about the $40,000 mark here, and at the bottom it's been about $31,000 mark. Now the question is, are we going to come back this week or next week and make a dip all the way down to these levels here? Or are we going to keep going sideways until we hit this trend line, which would be around about August time? So that's the million-dollar question. But certainly, as I said in the last video, this seems to be a bottoming out pattern. So on the whole, on a balance of probabilities, more than likely, it's likely to go sideways until we hit this trend line before we start moving up. However, and that was based on this bottoming out pattern here. There. Very similar. And it's also at the same price levels as well. So that's providing a very good support level around about the 30,000 mark here. And if we have a look at this blue line here, you can see quite clearly that we've been looking at this for many months now. And we know this is going to prove a very strong resistant point. Once we do get above there, these levels are going to be absolutely critical. And that could be anywhere now between $120,000, $130,000, $140,000 mark. And we obviously have our target here of $300,000. And these peaks that we had back in 2013, 2017, is this trend line going to prove our top over here? And we could go up to as high as 500,000. This very strong resistant line at the peaks of the two previous cycles may prove to be the peak this time around as well. And depending on where we hit it, it may well be that we go above the $300,000 mark towards the 400,000. So keep an eye on this as well. So on your charts, you should really have these three for your long-term view of the market, where it's heading. All the price is encapsulated within these three lines here, and you would ignore these three lines at your peril. Certainly, I have these constantly on my map so that I don't forget that when we come up to these levels, we know exactly where we are and what Bitcoin is about to do. And if we have a look at the daily chart here, we can see that this pattern, this symmetrical pattern more like, some people do draw this as a descending channel like that to take into account the support line here. And if that was the case, then there would be a bias towards the downside. However, some people are drawing this as a ascending channel, in which case we've got quite a way to still go here. So depending on how you draw this, either it's imminent to break very quickly, or it's going to take a little while before it goes. So this would fit into our narrative that this has got a few more weeks to go before we hit that trend line that I've just been showing you. But certainly this makes quite a good level of sense, in which case we've got until the end of this triangular pattern. However, generally speaking, we break out of this pattern well before this end point here. So this could be imminent that we're going to break up or down here if this was the pattern. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. But certainly as long-term holders, we wouldn't really have too much of a concern either way. All we know is that whatever happens in the short term, the long term is still very bullish and very positive for Bitcoin. And if we look at the shorter term picture with what's happening here in this downward channel, by looking at the 1 hour chart, so what we have is this downward channel, and we're about to break out of this very shortly. Either we have to make a decision here to break down, or we're going to break up and then find resistance at these levels here. But ultimately, we're going to have to break out of this symmetrical triangle pattern here. And if we have a look at the 4 hourly EMA ribbons, this is always very, very important. For us to get out of this particular malaise here on the upside, we would really need to get above these ribbons here. And as you can see, we've made many attempts here, 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 and before that, but we've been rejected many times now. Maybe that's a sign that we're eventually going to go lower. But certainly, currently at the moment, we're in a bearish phase of this particular cycle here. The ribbons are proving very resistant to the price. Every time we go above these ribbons here, there isn't enough fuel or buyers to be able to push the market up. So this is where we're at currently, and we've got this amount of time to go before it breaks either way. So let's wait and see what happens, but certainly it's looking very, very interesting. If we have a look at the 4 hourly RSI chart here, it tells us that a divergence is forming here, there, and this is aiming towards the more on the downside here. So this may well be that we're going to have a little run up towards the top of this trend line here. Even on the daily chart, we've got another divergence here as well. If you can see, the price is going lower while the RSI is going higher here, as you can see. So this would suggest that the price is more likely to go to the higher side rather than the downside here. However, if you look at the bottom chart here, this is the on-balance volume. And basically this is telling us the amount of volume that's in the market here. There is a way to calculate this. Basically, to understand this volume is a cumulative volume indicator. It adds and subtracts from the previous candles. This is quite accurate actually, because this is telling us that on a cumulative basis, the volume is falling. So there isn't very much volume in the market at the moment. As you can see, the trajectory is downwards. here, while the momentum is to the upside and the price has been falling. So you have to balance out all these factors. And if we have a look at the volume, you can see that this is reflected in the net volume as well, that the trajectory is downwards. So this is usually a sign that a big move is on its way when the volume starts to tail off. Let's wait and see what happens, but these are certainly some of the indicators that are giving us a little bit of the overall picture with what's happening with Bitcoin currently. If we look at the BLX chart and go back to that and have a look at the trend lines, we can see that this gap here could well be filled by the fall down to these levels. We could be at around about the $25,000, $26,000, $27,000 level. And this would fit in with the VPVR, which show the volume range here. And as you can see, majority of the volume is in this range here. But as soon as we go below the 30,000, this is where we found support, right on this end point here. But once we go below the 30,000, there isn't much support. As you can see, the volume falls off down to these levels here. If we draw a line, so this is where the next bit of volume will be providing support here. So we'll wait and see, but this is where the picture is currently on the shorter term time frame. One of the bearish signs for this current bull run is that for the past few weeks, we've now had a series of weekly candles below the 21 weekly exponential moving average. So not only did we fall and close below this, we've now maintained a certain level of resistance below this point here. And this has never actually happened in the history of Bitcoin. So this is proving to be quite a bearish picture with Bitcoin. And so it seems critical that we get above this 21 weekly exponential moving average. Otherwise, it may well be that this is a prelude to a fall further down. Last week, we made an attempt to get back towards the top of this line here, but we've been rejected there as well. So there doesn't seem to be enough power in the bulls to be able to push that back up for the continuation of the bull market. So currently, really, we're in a bearish trend for the past 5 or 6 weeks. If we have a look at the daily pivots, we can see quite clearly that the pivot line, the P line here, is at around 42,000, and that reflects this support and this resistance. And I've mentioned many times in the past that the 43,000 mark is going to prove a very important critical line here. So we've got to be very aware of this. So this is the range, taking it from this line to the top of that line there. So this is going to prove a very important resistance point. As soon as we broke it here, we went below it, and we haven't been able to get back above this line. But when we do, you can expect a rejection at these levels here, 42, 43 mark. And as you can see, we've got support line here, and that's more to do with the support line that we got around these levels here. So if you take it from the bottoms of these candles here, this is the other support that you've got. So really, we're oscillating between these two green lines, which are providing support and resistance. And it may well be that we oscillate between these two before we break out. But if we do break below this, then this line here, the S1 line at 25,000, as you can see there, that fits in nicely with the VPVR chart that I showed you, as well as the long-term trend lines I showed you, which basically say that we could come back down to the $25,000, $26,000 mark. So very, very interesting developments here with the various charts. Moving on to the Bitcoin miners, the one we normally look at is the Marathon Digital Holdings. And something very interesting was developing here. Now, in the last video, I showed you that we're breaking up from this neckline here. So when this neckline was broken, if you just take it across there, once this neckline here was broken, we had a massive rise to the upside. And I said in the last video that should we break this neckline here, which is very similar to there, then we should see a big massive rise here. and we may well be on our way towards that. However, something developed on the weekly chart, which I need to bring to your attention, which closed on Friday. If you look at the weekly chart here, what we've got is a gravestone doji candle. Now, this is always a worrying sign when it's like this, at the top of a trend. So this is the trend we've had last 12 months. But now we've got this doji candle. And look what happened last time we got this candle here. Once we got this gravestone doji candle, it was followed by a big red candle down. So for this week, it may well be that we have a bearish week to come and retest this neckline here. So be aware of that. This doji candle is very bearish. It doesn't have to come down, obviously, but history tells us that this is what happens. If you look at this one here, very, very similar. It's got a bit more of a body than this one here and this one. But again, it was followed by a red candle. Even this indecision candle, this is more of an indecision candle. It could have gone up or down. However, it was followed by a long wick down here first before it went up there. So we must always be aware of these. But as long-term holders, we're not too concerned, because all it will do is to confirm this neckline as support before we take a big rise to the upside. But certainly we've broken this neckline, and we may well come back to find support at around about the $26 mark here. Quite similar to Riot blockchain here. A similar candle closed on Friday with a long wick at the top, showing that there's a rejection of higher prices. And it may well be we come and retest these support levels for Riot holdings is around $28 before we take a jump up. So just be aware of that. If you are thinking of buying into Riot and Marathon, may well be a prudent move to wait until the price pulls back next week or the week after to around about these levels, $28 for Riot and $26 for Marathon holdings. And the best way to buy Marathon and Riot, certainly for me anyway, I go onto the Etoro website. If you want to buy Marathon or Riot or any of the altcoins as well as Bitcoin and Ethereum, you can always go and click on the link below my videos with Etoro and create an account here. And if you want to support the channel, then if you go to the bottom right hand corner, you can press the subscribe button here for Wisdom Bites, and you can like the video at this point here. So on to our Wisdom Bite for today, and all I would say is that I'm going to give you a quotation which is a life transforming quotation. So open up your ears, drop everything except the baby. You really need to take notes on this one. This is one of my favorite quotations ever. It's so simple, and everybody thinks that they're doing this, but only about 3 to 4 or 5% of people are actually doing this. What is it? And what does the quotation say? Quite simply, if you don't actively make the time to create the life you really want, then by default, you will be forced to deal with the life you really don't want. And when I tell people this quotation, everybody, and I mean everybody, says, oh yeah, I'm actively making the time to create the life I really want. But actually, when I delve into exactly what they're doing to create the life they want, it's basically they're hoping and praying and wishing that their life will improve. They're not actually doing anything actively to make the time to create the life they really want. And that's why you'll realize that people around you, if you just look at the people around you, you'll realize that 95% of the people are dealing with a life they really don't want, because they've been put into that position simply because they haven't been actively pursuing the vision, the goals, the dream that they really want. And the sad thing is that they don't know how to actively create this life. It's not their fault, because nobody's told them, or they haven't stumbled across the formula, the template that will help them to look at what they can do to actually create the life they really, really want. I'm going to give you that template, and I've alluded to these in the past videos on the Wisdom Bites, that what we have to do, whether we like it or not, if we really want the life we want to live, then we have to make the effort and spend some time, effort and energy in making it happen. That is the active part of it. The first question we have to ask ourselves is, what is it that we really want? Unless you know what you want, how are you going to make the effort to get it? We have to ask ourselves, what is the vision of our life? What do we want to be? What do we want to do in the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, or even longer? What is it that we want? What is our vision of our life? What's our dream? And that will create the purpose. And once we know this, from this will emanate your goals and your targets and your objectives on a daily, weekly and monthly basis to fulfill this vision of life, to fulfill this purpose that you've created. So the question now is, how do we set our goals and objectives and our targets for this vision of life, this purpose that we've now created? In the previous video, I gave you the 9 areas of life, which we call the cycle of life, which are the areas that we all have to work on. So it's basically working on ourselves to create this life, to work on ourselves in terms of our skills, our character, our personality, our mindset, using the law of attraction to attract positive situations and circumstances into our lives. And those 9 areas I gave you in a previous video, here they are again. It begins with working on your career. What can you do to improve your career? How can you be the best at what you do, the job that you're doing, or creating the business that you want? How can you make that go forward? What can you do to progress your career and improve on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis? That fits into this vision of life and this purpose that you've created. Secondly, the attitude. This is all about your mindset. Having an attitude of gratitude, a positive mindset, using the law of attraction to attract these positive experiences and circumstances into your life, and not being distracted by the things that other people get distracted. And if you're the type of person who blames the government, your friends, your parents, your family, the weather, if you're that type of person, then this will be totally irrelevant. The whole thing here is irrelevant to you. You have to have a different attitude to that. A successful person doesn't blame anyone because he takes responsibility to create the life that he wants. And he doesn't point the finger of blame on other things. He points the finger at himself and says to himself, if it's to be, it's up to me. But by doing that, you take total control of your life. So this is where the attitude comes in. And the social environment is all about keeping the types of friends that you need to help you along to create this bigger vision of life, the purpose that you have. And always remember that phrase that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So look around you. Are these the types of people you want to be the average of? Health and fitness is self-explanatory. It's all about making sure that you are healthy and fit and you're eating the right foods and you're keeping your body fit to lead a healthy and happy life from a physical point of view. And personal development is acquiring more skills, more knowledge, developing your character, developing your personality, increasing your attributes that you can offer. It's making yourself more valuable as a person by improving on your personal development. And the relationships. If you're in a toxic relationship, the rest of this isn't going to matter to you. Your mind will be on that toxic relationship and it's going to be a distraction for this wider purpose of life you've got. So you've got to be very careful with relationships. And financial opportunities. Have you got your antennae out there looking for opportunities all the time? Because whether we like it or not, if you have money in your pocket, it will open up the doors which otherwise would not open for you. So you must be always on the lookout for financial opportunities because they aren't going to come knocking on your door. And family, do you have a great family life where you try and get on with every member of your family? Every family has conflicts and politics being played out. And do you really want to get sucked into the emotion of all that? It's negative energy that you can do without. So make up your own mind and say that, you know what, when it comes to the family, I'm not going to get involved in politics or anything. I'm just going to get on with everybody and anybody. I'm going to refuse to get involved in any of the conflicts that go on in any family. And you can do that by emitting positive energy to all members of your family. If you can help them, try and help them, spend time with them, give them positive energy, and you'll be surprised how much positive energy you'll get back from them. And this one here, spirituality, is all about your peace of mind. Whatever gives you a peace of mind, pursue that, because then that will help all the rest of the other areas for you. And this way, you'll be part of the 5% of people who actively try to create the life they really want. Because if you don't do this, well, guess what? By default, you will end up dealing with a life that you really don't want. And sadly, that's 95% of the population. And you know, there's a saying that if you keep doing what you've been doing, you'll keep getting what you've been getting. For things to change, you have to change. You have to make the effort. You have to create the life you want. No one is going to do it for you. You have to understand the power of you. You have the power. Your life is in your hands, because we become what we think about most of the time. There's also saying that life is 10% of what happens to me and 90% of how I react to it. Always remember, you are not the product of your circumstances. You are the product of your decisions and the choices and the options you take. On your life journey up to now, you are here because of the decisions and the choices and the options you have taken. And if you do not like where you are, you have to make different choices, different decisions, and take different options. When you decide that you're going to make this life and create this life, you'll see a very different day for you. So instead of the day running you, you will be running the day. And the only person you are destined to become is the person you decide to be. And always remember, when one door of happiness or success closes, another one opens. But often we look so long at the closed door that we do not see the opportunity of the new one that's been opened for us. So please let go of what you are and become what you might be. And there is also a saying that too many of us are not living our dreams because we are living our fears. So build your own dreams, or someone else will hire you to build their dream. And finally, please change your thoughts. And with that, you will change your world. And on a final note, if you really want to create the life that you really, really want, then the 5% of people will always find a way. And if you don't, you'll find the excuses, which the 95% have. And with that, we'll conclude for today. Hope you've enjoyed the video. And if you did, please do remember to like and subscribe and to turn on the notification bell. Please leave your comments, questions, or suggestions in the comments below. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.